I've been dealing with some really messed up sleep over the last year where I tend to wake up between midnight and 3 a.m. Normally it's closer to 3 a.m. And I know that a lot of you guys out there can relate to this because I did a prior video on it and it got so many views. It really blew up. I really feel like that video was quite complicated and I'm gonna really just make it a lot simpler here and share with you the 2 things that have recently fixed my sleep. This has been my mission over the last year. I've been extremely passionate about finding out what in the world is going on because I've never had this sleep issue before and how to fix it. First, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Holly. About a year and a half ago, I decided to try the carnivore diet as an experiment. I wanted to see what the hype was about, if I would feel better, if I'd have more energy, and just to kind of test things out and to kind of challenge myself. So I decided to do it. I was very strict, very, careful about it. 1 month into the carnivore experiment of mine, I developed an issue where I started waking up at 3 a.m. This is not because I'm just so full of life and energy and I feel amazing and I don't need sleep or I'm a biphasic sleeper. No, thank you. I'm not into that and I don't have time to break up my day and do biphasic sleeping where you sleep a little, wake up, go back to sleep. I was never able to do that. I was not happy about the sleep issue that I had. It was very disruptive and I felt very tired. And the sleep that I was getting just wasn't really good sleep. Because I was getting so little sleep, I started getting really tired and going to bed earlier. The only way I could get almost enough hours, and I still felt horrible to be honest, was going to sleep at 6 p.m. I could not keep my eyes open after 6 p.m. and I am so grateful I don't have that right now. I am feeling so much better since I have fixed this issue. I'm also feeling better since I quit coffee, but I've got to tell you guys that is not the reason for my issue being fixed. I quit coffee a few months ago and it has been wonderful in general because I feel less up and down and less tired during the day and I feel way more calm and balanced. I didn't realize that it carried with it, kind of like a toxic, unhealthy, almost like anxiety, but a toxic, unhealthy energy. And I no longer have that. But even from the very beginning, the only difference in my sleep that it made is that it made me remember my dreams and have a lot more REM sleep. And I love it. It's wonderful, but it didn't fix my sleep. It just didn't. The only time that it fixed my sleep was the first 2 days. I slept way more. Other than that, my sleep went back to how it was with me waking up at 3 a.m. So I want to clear that up. The coffee did not fix my sleep. Getting off of coffee. I still believe in getting off of coffee and I'm still really happy with the choice, even though it is such a difficult adjustment. It was my only real addiction. I don't have food addictions. I'm very grateful. I don't have addictions to sugar. Very grateful, but I did have an addiction to coffee. With that said, I hope that gives you a little bit of background of where I'm coming from and where my issue developed and started. Over the last year, I've done everything humanly possible, keeping the most detailed logs. And I've monitored my brain waves at home with an EEG headband called the Muse S to monitor what's going on when I'm sleeping and when I'm waking up and different things. I've worn a continuous glucose monitor, and I've also been using AI to track the data, to look through it and to find the patterns for me, and it's been incredibly helpful. So I met with an old doctor the other day, very respected doctor. I really trust and value his opinion, and I talked to him about this issue regarding people waking up at 3 a.m. Now he mentioned 2 different things, but his first guess was, he actually presented it to me, what's your guess as to why this is happening? And I said low blood glucose levels, and he said, yes, right on, that is it. That is the major issue. There is another alternative issue for some people where they could be dealing with hormone-related problems. But in this case, what I've noticed is that there are a lot of people eating very, very low carb, keto, or carnivore who are dealing with this exact issue. And I mean people, men, women of all ages. So because of that, it made me kind of look past the hormone component, which is important. It's important to get your hormones tested and to look into that, because that too, especially for women, that too can cause these types of sleep issues or insomnia issues. I did do an experiment on myself for several months where I wore a continuous glucose monitor. What I learned is that many times, not every single night, but many times when I had my worst sleep issues where I just felt the worst and I woke up even earlier than 3 a.m., I was experiencing hypoglycemia or low blood sugar levels. Since that time though, I've tried a lot of things to fix it, and it took me a long time to get things just right. So the first time I noticed that my sleep was fixed and I got proper sleep and I slept past 3 a.m. within the last month and a half was related to something that I ate. So normally I've finally learned to eat, my last meal a few hours before bed. It could be 2 to 4 hours. I don't like to go like 6 hours. Sometimes I've gone 8 hours, but that doesn't seem to work well for me personally. What I've ended up doing is after I eat my small to medium sized meal at night, be careful not to make it too big or this also could disrupt your sleep. But after I have my last meal and after eating that, what I've discovered is adding in some type of fruit is what has fixed it for me. So for me, what I like to do is I like to eat extremely low carb during the day. For the most part, I stay in a good level of ketosis, and especially because I'm active and I also work out. And then in the evening, what I do is for my last meal, which is a few hours before bed, I eat a small to medium portion. And then with that, or right shortly after that, I will eat some type of carbohydrate, which is often a fruit. One of the fruits that has worked the best for me is frozen peaches. They do not taste very sweet, which is good. They also have fiber, which I personally find helpful. I know it's an offensive word to some people, but I do find fiber to be really helpful because I've noticed one other issue with people who have this waking up issue is that they're often also hungry. Not everybody has this, some people do though. And if that is another issue of yours, it does help some people to incorporate foods that have some fiber. It kind of slows things down, and it also is a buffer for your digestion. For me, the peaches do that really well. I personally don't want the things to be really sweet, and the frozen ones just aren't very sweet. Personally, I feel like I do pretty well fixing my sleep if the carbohydrates that I have do have kind of like a moderate or medium impact on my glucose levels. I do not want something that's going to spike my glucose and drop it really fast or rapidly. And just by eating that fatty meal before having these carbs, which this piece of fruit or even it could be some carrots, whatever it is, if you're wondering how something's going to affect your glucose levels, it kind of depends on how ripe the fruit is and also how much you eat. So if I do notice that something is a bit sweet, I just won't have as much. I'll just have like a small serving. Another way, in addition to your initial meal being a buffer for your blood sugar, the other thing that is a buffer is if you can eat that piece of fruit with something to buffer its effects, which could be something that is fatty, could be something that has fiber in it. For example, I will eat my peaches and I'll make a bit of a dip out of coconut butter. You have to know kind of how to work with the coconut butter because it's pretty hard as a rock solid when you get it. Now the thing that's great about that is it is very fibrous, and I mix some coconut butter. I have to heat it up to kind of melt it, and then I will mix some coconut milk in it, and I make a bit of almost like a frosting or a dip for the peaches, and it's just an additional buffer for what I'm eating, and it also tastes really great. If you wanted to, you could add a little honey to it, but you don't need to. I do that once in a while because it really just doesn't taste very sweet at all. If the peaches were sweeter, then I definitely wouldn't even add honey to my little dip, but I add it sometimes just the tiniest bit. Now, some people do find honey to be extremely beneficial at fixing the sleep issue that they have overnight. Some people prefer bananas. If I were to ever do that, I would just eat the smallest amount because I just feel like there's a lot of sugar in bananas. Eating fruit after a fatty, protein-rich meal works in several different ways. First, the fat and protein are going to slow down digestion, and this leads to a gradual release of glucose into your bloodstream. This steady release of glucose helps prevent blood sugar crashes overnight, which can lead to low blood sugar or hypoglycemia, disrupting your sleep. There's more to the story than just low blood sugar levels overnight. Here are 5 other factors that could be causing the early wake-ups. Number 1 is gluconeogenesis. This is how your body makes glucose from protein. If it is not working efficiently, your blood sugar can drop or stress hormones like cortisol can wake you up. Number 2 is low body fat or caloric deficit. Without enough stored energy or food, your body runs out of fuel overnight, which triggers hunger and wakefulness. Number 3 is elevated or dysregulated cortisol levels. Cortisol is essential for maintaining stable glucose levels overnight. It helps release stored glucose and it supports gluconeogenesis to prevent blood sugar from dropping too low. Number 4 is electrolyte imbalances. When sodium, potassium, or magnesium levels drop, your body can feel stressed even if your blood sugar is fine. Number 5, depleted glycogen stores. This is a natural process when you're in ketosis, but it can become a problem if you have insufficient ketones or if you're not consuming enough fats. I do have a recommendation. The absolute best thing that you can try is to drink a glass of milk with your last meal prior to bed and see if that will elicit enough of a response, because there are natural sugars in it and it should elicit some type of insulin release and potentially help regulate your blood sugar levels overnight. If that doesn't work, it's going to be a contentious subject here. You could add a little bit of honey. I know some people will not agree with that, and if you have sugar addiction issues, of course, don't go there. But for some people who don't, this could do the trick. If you really don't want to start eating fruits for some reason and you don't want to eat other things, because my body became so used to waking up at 3 a.m., it was so honed in on it. It was like, there's no way this is going to change. And even when my sleep started getting better, when I started adding the carbs in, I would still wake up at 3, and then luckily, almost every time I was able to fall back asleep and then sleep until closer to 5. In case I didn't mention that, now I've been sleeping from like 9 to 5, which is amazing. That's exactly how I want it to be. Within the last month and a half, I've been experimenting and testing things out, and I was still having the issue though of waking up at 3 because it was so deeply ingrained in my body's clock, my circadian rhythm. So I've done something that has fixed it, you guys, and it's really helping me a lot. I do feel like this is the secondary item that has completely changed the game for me. Now this item right here is something that I purchased for my son. It was recommended by a doctor, by a sleep doctor. This is a light therapy device, not like the one that you sit in front of. Some people do have a lot of success with those, light boxes, light therapy sad boxes that help with like seasonal depression and stuff like that. I used to use one of those, and I just liked how I felt when I had this bright light and all these bright lights on in the mornings, especially because of where I live in the Midwest. We don't get a lot of sun, especially this time of year. It's basically gone. I don't expect to see the sun for a long time. I no longer use those other light devices. I just kind of moved away from them. And because I previously purchased this is a $200 purchase. It's a device called the Luminette. This is something that has numerous studies backing it. What I've been doing is wearing this in the morning as I'm doing some chores before I do anything else. Like I'm taking care of the cats, feeding them, doing stuff. It takes me about 15 to 20 minutes. I put this on. I'm going to show you. There's 3 different settings and there's different light wavelengths. This has all been studied so that you have a safe wavelength and the certain wavelength that you prefer to use. I've been using the medium one lately. Let me see. So it's this one, and you put it on, and I know it looks great. You put it on and you can actually wear glasses under this as well. You don't stare directly into the lights that are beaming into your eyeballs and your retinas, but you just wear it and you walk around and you do your thing. I love that I can wear this while I'm doing things. What this is doing is ideally helping to reset my circadian rhythm in the morning, because I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but it's really important in the morning, if you want to get good sleep at night, to go outside and to get the sun in your eyes. I'd wake up at 3 and then people said to do that right away. The sun never came out. So there were a lot of issues. I would put on a really bright light in the morning, but it never fixed my sleep issue. I have a photography light in my office where I'd be reading the Bible and doing stuff at like 3 a.m. At 5 a.m., I would put it on because I wanted 5 a.m. to be my morning wake up time for real. And I would blast this light. but still it never ever fixed my issue or helped me like regulate my sleep and circadian rhythm. It just didn't work. This has been very, very effective for me. This is some interesting technology. I'm so grateful for this. When it comes to this product, it was studied for its safety in the EU, I believe. I'll have to check on that and put some more information down below or up here. But it was studied for its safety because this is something that is beaming light into your retinas, into your eyes, and we want to be really careful not to be harming ourselves. So there are, I guess you could say there are some risks, although it is said to be extremely safe. If you have certain eye conditions, you may want to avoid using this. I did sign up as an affiliate, so I do have a 15% off coupon code down below if you end up wanting to purchase this. I've also looked into its reviews on Amazon. I'm very curious. These seem like really enthusiastic reviews. A lot of people dealing with seasonal depression and things like that and finding it helpful. And then other people saying that it helped shift their sleep a couple hours a certain direction in the right direction. So I find that to be intriguing. I've been using this consistently and it's been working. I feel like it's really helping to reset the clock. I am no longer waking up at 3 a.m. at all lately. Maybe this is kind of new for me. This could change in the future. And if anything changes and I discover like, hey, this isn't working for me anymore or this has changed, I will share it with you guys. But for now, these are the two things that have helped me the most. I know some of you out there are going to be afraid that you're going to be kicked out of ketosis. Now, this is a very individual experience. You know, everybody has their own physiology and their own makeup, metabolic health. For me personally, I can share with you that a lot of these things I'm talking about will have a minor effect on my ketone levels. And then the following morning, sometimes my ketones are back up to 1 because the evening before I ate a certain type of fruit and it dropped it down. Oftentimes, my ketone levels get a lot higher by noon the next day. I could be closer to 2. So what I'm trying to say is if people have concerns of getting like super kicked out of ketosis, it's not always the case. And for me personally, sometimes it just depends on what you're eating. Sometimes it has just very little effect on me. I need to have something that is going to elicit a response with my insulin and then have my blood sugar kind of stabilize overnight. You've got to really hone things in and test things out to see how much it takes to do this. I really hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions at all, please let me know down below in the comment section.